Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This morning, we're taking you to the grounds of Jackson City Hall for a one-on-one interview with Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba. I spoke with the mayor last week on a number of topics, and today we'll bring you his comments on how to tackle the city's violent crime problems, the Jackson Police Department, and infrastructure needs in Mississippi's largest urban community. That's all coming up on Mississippi Insight. Mayor Lumumba is in the midst of a re-election campaign. Jackson's 53rd mayor was first elected in 2017, taking the helm of a city facing many of the same problems we have today. In a very real sense, Jackson's problems have increased in number and severity in recent years. The COVID-19 pandemic hit the city hard. Early this year, winter storms shut down most of the city, and those storms caused a weeks-long breakdown of the public water system. But even now, it is crime, especially violent crime, that remains the priority for Mayor Lumumba's administration and the city as a whole. I asked the mayor how he plans to address that crime going forward.
Well, first and foremost, I appreciate this question because this is something that I anticipated, right? If we remember, I even passed an executive order trying to limit the open carry because I know that when you have social determinants in play, that there's always a correlation between that and a rise in crime. And that's why we wanted to do that, to give officers an opportunity to discern, legal ownership and possession of a weapon versus illegal ownership and possession of a firearm. And that helps contribute to the issue of gun violence. Now, in terms of where we go from here, we have to continue to amplify the things that we have already been doing, such as increasing the number of our officers. We've been doing that. We've had 5 times as many recruit classes as as was previously taking place before we took office. We expanded the territory, the net of those individuals that could apply for jobs. Prior to coming into office, you could not work for the city and be a part of our public safety force unless you lived in the city of Jackson. I understand the merits of why some of that was contemplated, but when our pool is shallow and we have problems getting people to join the force, then you want to cast a wider net. And so we did that. Additionally, we made it more attractive to create a career path, making certain that there was no longer a 10-year gap between those individuals who joined the police force, right, and the 10-year period that they had to wait before their next significant raise. In addition to that, we have wiped clean all of our city employees' health care premiums. So if you work for the city of Jackson, you don't have to pay health care premiums. All you have to pay is your copay when you go to the doctor. And so we're creating these benefits to make it attractive to work for the city and demonstrate dignity in people's jobs. In addition to that, we're looking at a comprehensive view, right? We understand that there are so many challenges that are beyond our police. We're expecting too much of our police to be able to deal with all of these challenges. And so what does that look like? We're supporting groups like Strong Arms of Jackson, right? That is doing violence interruption. There are programs that community members have stood up, such as Operation Good, that is literally feeding people within the community, trying to build relationships so that they deal with those people who are at the highest risk of violence and interrupt the cycle that they find themselves engaged in. We're doing we're trying to build workforce programming that helps, put people in jobs, helps businesses in our community stand up and provide opportunities to people. We're looking at pilot programs that are happening right now, such as the Magnolia Mothers Trust that is looking at a guaranteed income to support people, much in the same way that I said the social determinants that have happened during COVID, when people have had not only economic turmoil, but mental anguish. They have had, all kinds of stresses within the houses, in their homes, right? What we have witnessed is a community in trauma, right? And when you see that trauma, there's an escalation in domestic violence. There's an escalation in crimes of poverty, such as robberies and burglaries. All of these things that not only do we want to be tough on crime, right? We certainly want to be tough on crime, and we're not skipping that, but we also want to be smart on crime. We want to make sure that we're not only attacking the what, but the why. And so we have to get to the root of these challenges. I just want to lift up and express my gratitude for organizations, clergy, that are all coming together. And so I think that that is important, that we understand that, yes, your mayor has a role in this, right? Yes, your police chief and your police department has a role in this, but every single one of us have to be supportive of this effort, because it's not a flip of the switch, easy solution that leads to crime going down. That is why we've not only seen a rise in crime in the city of Jackson, there's been a 40% increase in violent crime nationwide.
What do you say to residents, particularly like in Northeast Jackson, where there hasn't been that kind of crime before, but now they're seeing a spike in crime, and they're frustrated, they feel like they're under siege, and they want answers? What do you say to residents in areas that don't normally see crime?
Yeah, well, what I would say to them is this, is to all residents. We value every resident in this city, and we want to make certain that they have a safe condition, right? We are concerned about crime. The question now becomes, what are the best solutions to put in place in order to solve it? You know, I myself, my family, has suffered at the hands of violent crime in the city of Jackson. And so I'm no friend of crime, right? My brother was shot in the head in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I know the trauma that people experience. And what we have to understand in Northeast Jackson is that you have to be concerned as to what happens in West Jackson or in South Jackson, because we don't live in the Hunger Games bubble, right? And so if we're not able to create a better condition, which reduces the level of the term I was looking, the level of desperation that takes place in community, then that desperation is outpacing the ability of law enforcement to deal with it. On top of that, I think that we also have to deal in facts and know the surrounding circumstances that challenge the city of Jackson. Most often what we see when we see repeat offenders or people who are committing crimes in our city, these are individuals that our police department has already arrested, right? People that are already out on bond or have ankle monitors on, right? And so the criminal justice system and process is broken, right? And it's broken in a number of ways. First and foremost, we need to be able to stop them from being repeat offenders. We need to be able to stop them from taking advantage or joining that life of crime to begin with. But once that happens, when you have a system where we don't accept people into the jail, when you have a system where you have a consent decree that requires that we release people after a certain period of time, it's not the fact that officers aren't arresting people, but they can only use the tools in their tool shed, right, in their toolbox. And so arresting the same person multiple times, but yet they're not cycling through the judicial process to adjudicate those cases, all of that becomes challenging.
You still have confidence in Chief Davis?
I do. I have confidence in them, and I also understand, that we can't use the reductive analysis and think that this falls on one person's head, right? That it really does require everyone. And so if I know that his officers, right, these are people that are committed their lives to a life of service, if I know that they're making arrests in the community, and it's not so much their inability to do that, but they can't take them home with them, right? There has to be a place that we see this, we see justice no longer delayed. When justice is delayed, it's justice denied. And so we have to deal with that.
We'll have more with Mayor Lumumba after the break, including his approach to bolstering the JPD. You're watching Mississippi Insight on 12 News. How many officers do you have now, and what is your goal, and how many officers do you want to have on JPD to get to where you want to be?
I think that the last number I got was around 320. Don't hold me to that number. We want to see the numbers increase. This has been a long discussion in the city of Jackson. One time there was a study that said that Jackson needed 500 officers. Population has decreased since that study was done, so I don't know what the appropriate number would be. But also what I do see, I see cities like Atlanta, Georgia. I see cities like Chicago, Illinois. I see cities that are challenged with this same issue, and their issue is not so much associated with a lack of officers, right? The city of New York, the largest police department in the country, right, is having challenges with this issue of violent crime in the midst of this pandemic, right? There is no better resourced, better staffed police department in the nation. And so, yes, I do agree, right, and have always agreed that Jackson needs more officers, partly because we're dealing with the challenges of officers who have reached the age of retirement. The class that we affectionately refer to as the ditto classes are now in a position where they can retire. And so you're trying to convince people who, quite honestly, can make more money by going home that they should stay and work and fight crime and you know, continue to put themselves in harm's way to protect people when they've already given, you know, a significant portion of their lives towards this effort. That's a very difficult, you know, uphill battle to get over. And so that is why we're increasing and continuing the effort. Every time we end a recruit class, you know, no matter how large or small it is, we continue to increase more and more. We have officers going through the process of being able to get promotional, going through promotional exams. So we're trying to move people up the ranks and show them opportunity within the police department. All of these things are important to us. I believe in our officers' rights. I believe in our employees' rights because I believe employees' rights are human rights, and I believe in human rights for human beings. And so I continue to do these things, and we're continuing to unfold these efforts. But at the same time, we have to realize that there is no quick solution even in that regard. And so we have to attack this thing in a really comprehensive way.
How do you convince people to want to work for the Jackson Police if they can go work in the suburbs, make more money, where it's a safer place to be?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that is a misnomer in many regards, right? Our police salaries, we looked at those salaries when we were coming up with the scale, and our salaries are comparable, right? Furthermore, you'll get more time in the city of Jackson. We have some officers that are making $100,000 a year, right? And I'm not talking about those in the command staff. And so, you know, there's opportunity within the city of Jackson. But also, I want them to know that we're building a police department. We're building a workforce in the city of Jackson, which will demonstrate dignity in their work. We're adding tools, right? One thing that I didn't mention in this effort of seeing how we unveil a safer condition in the city of Jackson, we've invested in tools like a real-time command center, which looks at, you know, a real-time account and has the ability to follow and track instances as they happen to help support our officers. You know, we can find when somebody steals a car, and the camera system can track them, so our officers no longer have to, you know, guess or you know, speed through the city in order to find them, but they have a system that is identifying where they are and where they can meet them. Those are tools that are helpful. Those are tools that we are investing in. And so, yes, we are supporting the measures of increasing a policing strategy. But I think that we have to go further than that. That's all I'm saying, is that we have to go further than just a policing strategy. We have to look at how we deal with mental health. We have to look at how we deal with economic stress. We have to look at how we deal with the trauma that is leading to these things increasing. What are you saying as far as the interlocal agreement with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department? Well, first and foremost, no interlocal agreement has been presented to me yet, right? So there's been some question as to why I'm allowing it to sit on my desk. There is nothing on my desk, right? The challenge that our legal department had is that there wasn't enough clarity and specificity in that order. I believe that if we had the money, which is a big if, right? Because we have not closed out our budget in terms of the things that we have to pay. We have to pay, and this is out of rainy day funds, right? Not only have we dealt with the challenge of having to spend money during COVID, having to spend money during a tornado now, having to spend money during 2 winter storms, having to spend money during a flood, right? All of these things which have challenged and pulled on our rainy day fund. We also have the challenges of a convention center that has not had much activity, and we have to help pay the debt. We have the challenges of Thalia Mara Hall that has not had the shows and the programming that we're used to, and we have to pay the debt. All of these things that drag on our budget and that people are unfamiliar with, right? And so as we talk about whether there is an abundance or an availability of funds, if that is true, then I think we would be better invested in putting that in our own police department as opposed to putting it, towards an agency which we work with and we support and we're grateful, but they already have, concurrent jurisdiction in the city of Jackson that they can patrol and support, right?
Mayor Lumumba also had plenty to tell us about the city's infrastructure needs. We'll ask how his relationships with state leaders might impact his search for funding. That's when Mississippi Insight continues. Let's talk about infrastructure and the needs of the city for infrastructure. The city is getting about, $47 million from the COVID money to deal with the water crisis issues. Where do we stand as far as getting the money right now?
Let me be clear on that, right? The city is receiving a federal allocation that is supposed to deal with recovery in the midst of COVID. And that recovery deals with a number of things. That analysis of the money that was sent from the federal government happened long before we suffered the February storms, right? So I want to be clear for all of those who are responsible for getting funds for the city of Jackson and the state of Mississippi for that matter, is that the city, along with all other cities in this nation, has had COVID challenges and the city of Jackson has had water challenges. So we need COVID recovery money and we need water infrastructure money. Now, some of our COVID recovery money we do anticipate that we will use towards infrastructure goals and responsibilities. But we don't want to make certain that we're allowing people to punt the ball and not give us the resources that we need in order to address this aged infrastructure that has not been dealt with for decades now. And so we are continuing to mount an effort to get support not only from the state, but the federal government, and those conversations are going on each and every day. How much money are you getting as far as for infrastructure right now? Well, there hasn't been an in terms of what the state issued and based on our $47 million request, $3 million was allocated for the O.B. Curtis water treatment facility. And how much from the federal government are you getting as far as the pandemic money? Or 43 million. Okay. But that doesn't come all in one installment. That comes over the course of time. And so there are some priorities. One investment that we have made is an investment in a large water line that will service South Jackson. Not only does South Jackson have the challenge of being the furthest point away from the water treatment facility, which makes it significantly challenging to get them water when we have experiences such as what we experienced in February, but the pipes that lead to South Jackson are not of sufficient size in order to service the number of residents that it services. And so we are making that investment, a $7 million investment in terms of that water pipe that will help our residents in South Jackson. The Maddox water tower there, will that be working again there on TB Road? Where you guys they are working to get that cleared, and there is belief from our Public Works Department that booster station will also be helpful in the distribution of water to South Jackson and the areas that it covers. How would you describe your relationship with the governor, lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House when it comes to dealing with these infrastructure needs? Well, I pursue relationships based on operational unity. When I come in the room with any of those individuals, I come in the room with the focus of focusing less on where we disagree and more on where we see eye to eye and see how we can reach solutions that can build support for the things that we have commonality around and need to see supported. And so I believe that we can have unity, debate unity. We can come in a room, identify where we're unified, debate where we may have some differences with the objective of reaching greater unity at the end of the day. And so, with the governor, it's never really been a, quote, contentious relationship, but I think that it needs to be a more frequent dialogue. With the lieutenant governor, we've had, heated and fruitful conversation and debate over things. But I'm just laying on the line the issues and concerns of my community. And so I want that to be front and center. There may be other areas of disagreement. We may disagree over the airport and the like, right? But that is immaterial to the fact that sons and daughters and mothers and fathers and grandparents need water, right? They need support in their infrastructure. And that has nothing to do with any disagreement over a resource and an entity that the city of Jackson has invested in.
How important is it for you to have a good relationship with these individuals if you're trying to get the help you need for the city?
Oh, it's absolutely important. It's critical. Now, we don't limit our efforts just to those individuals in terms of bringing resources in. But I've never pursued those relationships in a negative light, right? I've always, come to the table with respectful dialogue. I've come to the table with facts and information, and that's what I will continue to do. Politics is the study of who gets what, when, and where, and how, right? And so I know that they have needs to cover far beyond just Jackson, Mississippi. But I need them to understand that Jackson is absolutely critical and essential to the progress of the state of Mississippi. It is the economic engine of the state of Mississippi. It is the most populous city in the state of Mississippi. It is the capital of healthcare in the state of Mississippi. It is the seat of government in the state of Mississippi. And so we need to make certain that Jackson's effort and Jackson's contribution to the state of Mississippi is met with commensurate and reciprocal support.
That's Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba speaking with us outside City Hall in downtown Jackson. We'll be right back. Big thanks to Mayor Lumumba from the city of Jackson for spending time with us. We want to thank you for watching. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.